The rumors are getting louder and louder. A split between NASCAR and all the teams is quickly becoming a genuine possibility for the future of NASCAR racing. Although many thought that the dispute between the team owners and the NASCAR leadership, more precisely the France family, was going to be fixed sooner rather than later, and it's likely not going to be the outcome of this saga. So, what is next for one of the most thrilling sports in the United States? As the split becomes more likely day by day and dissatisfaction and anger among NASCAR team owners grow? And how on earth does Tony Stewart's decision over 2 years ago suggest splitting from NASCAR could be a massive success? There's plenty to cover, so stick around with us until the very end, and we'll try and summarize everything important in less than 8 minutes. As of now, NASCAR has a very unique system of dividing the pie, with tracks keeping around 65%, team owners taking 25%, and NASCAR taking 10% of the income that is pouring in. While many think that 25% is enough for the team owners and their riots are unfounded, that is certainly not the case. Keep in mind that the teams are responsible for bringing sponsorship money, which constitutes around 60 to 80% of all the money that the teams are supposed to give to the NASCAR sport. Most of the money is being transferred to the France family, one that's known as the first family of the sport. Quite frankly, if it hadn't been for Bill France the Sr., NASCAR wouldn't have existed in the first place, with Bill forming the stock car racing competition all the way back in 1948. However, that was a long time ago, and because of all the changes and evolution that have occurred in NASCAR, changes are unavoidable, and changes will occur in the future. So, what are the team owners aiming at? Obviously, they need to have some sort of recognition board or organization. In this case, that is the Race Team Alliance, and this organization has been composed of all 36 NASCAR team owners. The vice chair at Hendrick Motorsport, Jeff Gordon, who is one of the most renowned members of the RTA, has decided that the talks that the body has with NASCAR are not progressing at the pace that the RTA would want them to, so he took things public. It's never a good thing when a discussion with a governing body goes public, but unfortunately, the RTA felt like they had no choice. NASCAR remained deaf to their request, and the RTA wanted to let them know that they're here for business and they are not to be messed with. With the way things have been developing between NASCAR and the RTA, the tensions raising by the day, we are getting closer to a split. There is one model that the RTA is currently looking at that is present in NASCAR, and this model serves somewhat like an example of what they are aiming for if NASCAR doesn't meet their wishes. Tony Stewart and the Superstar Racing Experience, or SRX for short, have been giving some hope to the RTA that NASCAR isn't that holy and non-vulnerable, and damage can be applied if that is the wish of the team owners. So, what is this model of SRX, and how does it currently work in NASCAR? Tony Stewart is a familiar man to the NASCAR community, and quite frankly, he is one of the most original people that you can meet out there. He's always fought for what he thought was right, which is why the SRX is lurking from behind as a potential threat to NASCAR's future. SRX, or Superstar Racing Experience, is an American stock car racing series that was founded by Tony Stewart, Ray Everham, Sandy Montag, and George Pine. As of now, SRX, also known as the Camping World SRX Series, hosts 6 races that are network televised, and they've been accompanied by big league names as well. Tony Stewart has had his fair share of battles with NASCAR recently, meaning that along with everything that is happening between NASCAR and the RTA, these entities are not related to NASCAR are going to raise more and more issues with the foreseeable future, which is why NASCAR needs to respond and address the situation as soon as possible. What NASCAR hopes is that the regulations and legislation that they've cemented in the sport are going to prevent teams from even thinking about a potential split. One major reason for this is that the RTA teams are not permitted to run events in NASCAR vehicles unless NASCAR acts as the sanction in these events. This contract expires in 2024, but the RTA may not have that much time to wait. And, spoiler alert, the legislation and regulations proposed by NASCAR contain a loophole. Yes, you heard that right. This is a loophole that has been perfectly utilized by the SRX series. The loophole is that the teams can organize their own events in non-NASCAR cars, which has been happening in the SRX for the past 2 years. And if there is a human being that knows a thing or two about loopholes and rubbing them straight into the Francis family's face, that has to be Tony Stewart. Stewart is also a co-owner of a team, Stewart Haas Racing. This is part of the RTA. Therefore, his concerns about the future of NASCAR are legitimate ones, and if the team owners don't get what they want, the split is on the way. Speaking about splits, where have we seen one before? That's right, in the IndyCar 500. The IndyCar 500 is currently owned by Roger Penske, but a split occurred in 1994 and the Indy Racing League was formed as a split with CART had been hanging in the air for quite some time. Later on, CART was purchased out of bankruptcy, and in 2008, both sides finally reunified, forming the IndyCar 500 championship. The split hasn't been good for the team owners or the businesses surrounding this championship, which is why NASCAR teams, specifically the RTA, must be cautious about how far they will push things. Before we conclude that a split is happening and NASCAR is going to suffer tectonic shakeups, let's see what can be done first in order for the teams to fix things with NASCAR and return to the old ways. Obviously, the business model isn't working out, and that's something that literally everyone knows. It may have worked in the old days, but it may be the only business model that is available to NASCAR right now. But it's definitely not the one that's going to keep the team owners satisfied. More than 25% of the cake is the number one rule that the RTA has set, mostly because their expenses are going through the roof. Maintaining a team in NASCAR is everything but a cheap and easy job, and that's something that team owners think NASCAR doesn't understand. The sport and the tracks are banking in huge amounts of money, and the teams along with their owners are left with crumbles. If you are a multimillionaire who owns a team in NASCAR, this is definitely not the perfect business opportunity and definitely not the best environment for your business to rise. That is why the RTA is not waiting anymore on NASCAR and is likely to mold things as they prefer. One step was made in this direction, and that's the RTA already exploring the possibility of staging their own exhibition races as early as a year from now. Obviously, the SRX model has turned out to be a true role model for the RTA, but now one couldn't help but notice that all teams united have a much bigger chance of making a split work in NASCAR than Tony Stewart and his partners did with SRX. Tony's job is pretty much done here. He has shown the way. He has given the prime example, and now all he can do is sit from behind and give advice on possible directions that the RTA needs to take. On the contrary, he can always take the reins and say that he is the captain and that pushing the RTA is the path to success. The RTA is currently exploring exhibition race opportunities not just on domestic grounds but rather in international grounds as well. According to Adam Stern from the Sports Business Journal, the request by the RTA was deemed a very exploratory one, meaning that they are sick and tired of waiting in the bush for NASCAR to react. That has been a very well brought to light by RTA making things public, which is why NASCAR needs to be careful as the France family is currently walking on thin ice. How has NASCAR responded to these requests? It's quite silly if you ask us. What they did was ask the teams to cut costs in the future while briefly increasing revenue. One would label the help from NASCAR like giving a lollipop to a hungry beast and keeping in mind that this beast is not going to stop anytime soon. The law and legislation are on their side, and with the loophole that has proven to be a jackpot for the SRX, things are not looking great for NASCAR. Steve Phelps, the president of NASCAR, has responded to the calls of Dave Alpern for more money because the teams would simply go to bankruptcy, as Phelps told the Sports Business Journal, adding that NASCAR is going to give the teams more money from a revenue perspective. Still, when asked about the increased 25%, Phelps did not address the issue, instead adding that interest in entering the sport as a team owner has never been higher. This is a very interesting statement by Phelps, and if you think about it, it's a direct screw you message to the team owners, saying to them that if they don't like it, they can leave. There is always a replacement that is set to take their place. Obviously, NASCAR is going to try to keep these guys, the ones that have made the sport so popular, but if an agreement can't be reached, rest assured that we are in for a very turbulent season in NASCAR. What do you think about this ongoing situation? Have you heard about the split previously? Do you think it's likely to happen, and would you like to see it? Let us know in the comments below. A huge thank you to all our loyal subscribers here at NASCAR Culture. Your support is deeply appreciated. And if you haven't already, subscribe and hit the bell icon as you surely don't want to miss the next video. It's going to be a stunner. Until next time, racers.